Live in Sydney. Leanne, ERA coming out with their numbers, a net loss, but we're seeing their shares actually higher of about 0.75%.
James, we have, just as I came on, I noticed that they had slipped into positive territory. They've sort of been trading negatively for most of the day, but I think this result mostly was to be expected by the market. We know the company had previously flagged this loss between $120 and $140 million, so it has actually come in within their guidance range. If we look at our expectations, it's actually come in ahead of our expectations. So they've reported that $127 million loss. We were expecting about $132 million. So it is in fact ahead of our expectations. Looking at their revenues, they were also up about 23% and their cash flows up 66%. So overall, I suppose even though they have reported this loss, it doesn't look all that bad when you actually look sort of further into those numbers. But really we know that this stock has been coming under pressure, particularly given the fact that they in fact produced no uranium during the first half as a result of some of those problems at their Ranger mine in the Northern Territory. Of course, they're continuing to experience very high cash costs coming through and that lower uranium price as well, which really has been affected from that Fukushima disaster back in 2011. So overall, this stock really does continue to come under significant pressure. We don't sort of like the outlook. It does look very risky, but certainly seeing a fairly strong performance coming into this afternoon's trade.
Rio also in focus today.
James, it is, and another interesting one, we are in fact seeing Rio performing quite strongly, up about 0.5% when I last looked. Of course, we know that they've reported that they've sold these troubled Mozambique coal assets for quite a significant loss, but I think investors quite liking this today, taking comfort in the fact that the company's indicated this is unlikely to have an impact on their earnings. We know they are due to report next week, so I don't think this is sort of been too much of a surprise. We know that a lot of these companies have been experiencing difficulties in their coal assets as a result of these coal prices falling off. So I think probably investors happy in the fact that they're offloading some of these underperforming assets.
And of course, big day tomorrow for Woodside with their EGM proxies and direct votes so far suggesting the 75% target might be a bit difficult to get.
It is certainly looking very uncertain at this stage, James, and we're certainly seeing that stock price coming under pressure today. Of course, we know that they need that 75% approval to go through in order for this buyback deal to actually happen. So certainly a lot of uncertainty around, but I suppose if we don't see this deal going through, there is going to be the question about whether in fact this cash will be returned to shareholders in the form of those special dividends, whether they will be an on-market buyback, or how in fact they are going to use this cash for growth. And so there's still a lot of uncertainty around about what is going to happen. Certainly will be all eyes on that vote tomorrow.
Absolutely. And look, just finally, the broader market at an index level, a little boring.
It is, James, although we are sort of seeing quite a sort of positive day today, despite the fact that we didn't really get much of a positive lead from those overseas markets. But I really think our market taking the lead from some of that strong US economic data that's coming through, particularly that GDP read that we did see. And of course, ahead of our reporting season, I think investors are probably, taking some confidence in the fact we might see a fairly strong reporting season. But of course, some of the defensives are continuing to lead today, that IT space, healthcare, as well as staples. But interestingly, that utility sector is in fact the worst performer today. We saw it the best performer yesterday, so sort of one we've been keeping an eye on. Still been seeing some fairly light volumes going through. We were expecting it to be a little better, given that it is the last trading day of the month, but has still been fairly light, but still managing to sort of maintain some resilience.
Brilliant. Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks, James.